Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unfulfilled Achiever podcast, where we'll talk about our experiences achieving success, but still feeling something was missing. Hi there, my name is Melanie Walker Desir.
I'm Justin Wendell, and we're looking forward to talk with everybody about these pieces and digging in and realizing that after a long period of working together with Melanie and then even some time apart, we had a lot more in common than we thought. And it was about this journey that we were undertaking of kind of identifying who we are. So, Melanie, I know, we've worked together a long time, multiple companies, Fortune 100 companies. We both had our professional view in executing things, but there was a little more to it that I don't think we ever really talked about. So why don't you give a little insight into your story from that perspective?
Yeah, that's very true. So I think on the surface, you look at both of us and think, wow, they're successful, senior vice presidents at multiple companies. We had a voice, well respected, and all of that was true. And I was definitely happy and had reached great levels of success in my career. But there was something that was missing. I knew that from day one, literally from graduating from college. When I went into public accounting, I was like, okay, this is not it. But I was told, hold on, it gets better. And so I held on and held on. And I excelled in internal audit. I excelled there. I excelled in risk management. I spent most of my 25 plus year career in banking and financial services. And I enjoyed what I was doing, but it was just this nagging feeling in the back of my mind that something was missing. And I think you and I connected recently after I'd put a post on LinkedIn and really kind of talked about my journey and where I am. And we started to realize that, wait a minute, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's unfulfilled, like feeling something's missing. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. We just kind of interact with each other on the surface level and never really kind of share, hey, I feel the same way. So, what was it like for you when you were, reaching levels of success but feeling like something was missing?
Well, on that point you just mentioned, it's almost taboo to talk about it, right? So that's part of the challenge we run into. And you would think, get to the executive level at a Fortune 100 company, you have the house, you can have a nice car, you have the family. That's the American dream, right? You're supposed to be fulfilled. And I think that's why people a lot of times won't talk about it. Or there's the piece of once you're at that level, you have to be careful of what you say in the public eye because you represent the company, which is another challenge. So we've reached that level both of banking. I think we met in the audit space initially, but I was really big into data and technology. We climbed to those tiers, and I'm like, okay, all I ever want is that C title. And I got really close, like right under that C title, but it wasn't right. Like something was constantly pulling me back. Like I should be happy here, but I'm not. I'm not happy. I don't feel like I should be. And the stress, the anxiety, all those things start to kick in, and it gets harder and harder to reach or to perform on the level you need to perform at those jobs. And it's crazy because I took my year off almost, well, it's been a year and a half now, and I thought it was just me. I started to even question myself. Am I crazy for doing this? Do I just need to go back to corporate America? And you made your post, and I'm like, no way. Melanie is like the epitome of professional executive. One of those people I always looked at and said, she's always got it together. There's no way. So when I saw that, I had to reach back out to you because I think it probably been at least 6 months since we had talked, and it was crazy to see. And that's kind of we have to do this. We have to kind of start to talk more about this and get this story out because there's got to be more people out there.
It actually has not been 6 months. I did that post in September. It has only been a couple months. It accelerated so quickly because when we kind of took the mask off and shared with each other, this is where I am, this is where I struggle, these are the things I'm challenged with, the anxiety, the depression, all those things that go along with not aligning with your passion or maybe not even knowing what your passion is. We instantly connected on those topics. And so as we kind of went through and started talking, I remember us having our conversation and you said, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm thinking about doing a podcast and I think we could work together well. And I was like, shut up. I have 3 pages of notes on a podcast because I was thinking about doing one myself. But I love the idea of us sharing our stories together because I think that this resonates with so many people. If you're honest with yourself, when you're lying at home in the bed at night, mind racing, thinking about getting up and going to work tomorrow, this is not really what I want to be doing. Maybe you know what you want to do, or maybe you don't, but you're in that kind of black hole of where you're just like, I don't know what it is, but I know it ain't right. And that's where I think both of us were and where our gap years kind of came from because we had to take a step back and do the work. Is that kind of how you came upon doing your gap year?
It is. I was almost forced out for health reasons. It had gotten to be so severe that, like you talk about the sleep problems, the stress, the anxiety, it impacted personal life, it impacted my work life, it impacted everything. It manifested in a physical form. So it was one of those things that I had a choice of, I can either make a change and take a step out and reset myself, or I don't know how much longer I was going to be around. And that's one of those things that I hope nobody has to experience that, but that's what it came down to. So me taking that step back was, I'm going to go reset. I got to figure out what I need to do. I got to figure out what's kind of not working with me. And I have to do that internal work that so few people take the time to do. And I think once you get to that certain level in corporate America, you almost feel like you don't have time. Like everything is consumed because we don't have a 9 to 5 when you're at executive level. There is no 9 to 5.
It's 24/7.
It is 24/7. And people don't necessarily see that all the time, but that's the reality, especially in a large company. They expect so much more out of you. And I'm okay with that part of it. But if you haven't done the work to build yourself up and strengthen yourself, you're not going to be successful in that space. It's just going to wear you down. And I think, when I look back of it, that the things that I did, that my exit and that kind of time away was the best thing I could have ever done because it forced that time. It forced that internal work. And then now that we've kind of reconnected, I'm like, man, there's more to this. There's more to this. And that's why I'm super excited that we're doing this and kind of getting things moving. But I'll tell you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. The crazy thing is, without the golden handcuffs, without the large salary, I'm happier. I'm so much happier than I ever was with all that money coming in. Now, we have our own ways now that we're going to make our money. We're doing our different things. But having that tie to whatever the next person is telling me was what was weighing me down. Doesn't mean it's wrong for everybody. There's a lot of value in it, and I think that there's a great path to it. But it was a big weight on me, and I think that's what ultimately created the challenge. I don't know how you feel about it. I know the paychecks are nice, though.
The paychecks are really nice, but it can be a false sense of security, like knowing that every 2 weeks I'm going to get this amount and there's the stability. And especially if you're like me and you come from a background that's more scarcity than abundance, that was something that I really held on to and it made me feel comfortable. But to a point you made earlier, some people are in that space and they're happy and they're thriving. And I love that for them. So I just want to make sure that people don't think that we're corporate bashing or, you can't thrive in corporate. I know lots of folks who've done the work, who figured out their purpose and who their careers are aligned with their purpose. And I commend them for that. I think what we're saying is, well, me personally, I did what I knew I was good at. I was never told to figure out what your purpose is. I didn't even know that that was a thing. I was told to go out, get a degree, make money. And so I was good at it and I just kept doing it and I just kept kind of floating along. Um, But at a certain point, I got to where you're talking about the anxiety and feeling pushed out. I felt like I could not continue on mentally, physically, spiritually. I had those same types of feelings, waking up in the middle of the night, heart palpitations, all of that. I felt those same things. I literally, to your point, felt like I was pushed out of the nest as well. It was my own doing. I decided to walk away, and it was scary. I mean, when have you? I've never personally quit a job and I didn't have anything on the horizon. All I knew is that I had to take a step back and I had to pause because there was just so much going on, so much noise. When you're working, like you said before, it's 24/7. I never had a chance to step back and think strategically, like, what do I really want? I'm just focused on, what has to be done on a day-to-day basis. But the me and my voice was so buried beneath everything that I was doing for other people. I didn't even know what I wanted or who I was. And so after I took some time to stop worrying about what other people would think, because that was huge, huge. What are people going to think? I stepped away and I walked into my gap year. And it has been a transformative experience, something that, I know we'll talk about more in future episodes. But at the end of the day, I took time to rest, self reflect, do the work, really get back to what brings me joy and figure out what is it that I want to do. Maybe it is taking a corporate role, again in the future. But for right now, I have some other things that are bringing me joy that I really want to kind of dive into and see where those things go. And so that's what I call the epiphany side. Once the chatter, kind of went away and I was able to really connect with myself and realize, you know what? I'm a helping professional. All the things that I've gone through in my career and all the experience that I've had have brought me to where I can help people. And I think that's where you are as well, and how we kind of connected on the podcast. Like, we really want to help people through this.
Yeah, and you hit on a few different important topics. I mean, absolutely, this is not a corporate America bashing at all. It is aligning to what matters to you most to get the fulfillment because I think, I was hitting on it a little bit is the big paychecks, the toys. I like my cars and it's my own hobby. All those things are not necessarily what's going to bring you fulfillment. And if you are constantly working against what's bringing you fulfillment, you're going to create the negative environment within yourself that makes it hard to be successful at anything else in life. And that's really what I want to make sure. I want to reiterate your point because I think it's extremely important that isn't the focus of a negative thing. Corporate America has done well for both of us. We just needed to do some things
Absolutely.
internally that we didn't realize we needed to do to create kind of the right alignment to what we needed for ourselves. So I think that's extremely important. The pieces around kind of that internal work, it's so important. I'll tell you, like I didn't think much of it. It is like, okay, I'll go grind, I'll climb the ladder, I'll do those things. And I forgot about myself. But now that I step back and I look at it, even in the career as I was leading teams, my focus was always on the development of the people. It was
Mhm.
less about the widgets and the check boxes and all those things. And I'll tell you, that's where I could have done better is you have to find that balance because if you don't do all the check boxes, right, then
You don't
the
have a
career is
job.
going to shrink. Yeah. um, but I'm much more about the people. And I'll tell you, like, I even weigh now, like, if the right culture came up and the right fit, right role, I would consider another job, but it
Yeah,
still has to
absolutely.
not go against everything that I want to do. Like, this podcast is important. I want to continue to do inner city mentoring. I want to help people kind of
Mhm.
grow personally. So, as long as it's complementary and it helps accelerate those things, fantastic.
Yeah.
And to your point, I know some people too that they are corporate America that aligns perfectly what they want to do and they're happy. they can have all the stress in the world. It feels like coming on them. There's more and more work, and they're just like, this is great. I love it. And they thrive in that. And that's what it's about, finding what you thrive in, whatever that may be. So definitely, I think what we're going to keep finding too is um, we're going to keep going through additional levels of self discovery as we add more of these episodes and we talk and we build this community out. And just so you all know, that is one of the plans is we want to build a community where we can bring people together and start to talk about and work through these things and find like-minded individuals, because quite honestly, it's a little bit easier when you have more people around you that fit into that same mold and help kind of raise you up when you're struggling. So definitely more to come on that, but very excited about it. I think there's a lot here, and it's almost kind of like I guess serendipitous is the word, right? That we kind of ran into each other again,
Yeah.
and we're willing, both at the point where we're willing to be a little more vulnerable about what was going on,
Yeah.
and like I told you, you're so much better at the LinkedIn posts and the social media posts than me, and she gets a lot more engagement, and I think part of me, like if you still look at my profile picture, it is that suited up, and it was at the USA professional picture, and I'm like, you know what? That was never fully me. So I'm still have a little bit of that fear of like, maybe I shouldn't post that up because maybe this will ever happen. And that's what was killing me, is not being the authentic me. But when I look at your posts, people engage, they resonate because you're able to kind of translate that better. And I think that's where, I want to keep learning from you too as we go through this journey of, okay, I've learned my authentic self. I've learned how to open up. Like if you guys see my IG, I do things a little bit differently. But
Yeah.
that blend of how you bring in that corporate and the kind of personal touch base, I think is phenomenal. So kudos to
Thank
you
you.
on that.
I'm trying. It's peeling the layers back. And the most recent post I did was about being fearlessly authentic. I spent so much of my career having these different layers on, the work me, the buttoned up work me, and then the, kind of like me with my friends, and then me at home. And that's exhausting. Like at a certain point I started realizing I need to bring more of me into work. I need to bring more of me into my leadership style. And I did do that to a certain degree, but sometimes it's hard. And you don't always have a safe space to really kind of be who you are. And I think that's what we really want to create here with this community, is a safe space for people to talk about how they feel, what's going on with them. If they feel like they're not being authentic, let's talk about how do you transition to being authentic. If you're authentic and you've done the work and you've identified your purpose, everything else starts falling into place. Like, it's scary taking this time off and exploring new things, even doing this podcast, having these conversations. We never even had this conversation when we worked together in the same office. Never had this conversation. So this is new for us. I understand this is, could be new for a lot of people, but I think this is really important stuff, especially when you get to, a certain level where you've done the things and you've got the accolades and you feel like you've achieved success. But to me, now I understand that true success is being myself, knowing my purpose, and walking in that. And so I expect the universe to bring to me what it is I need, to continue on with this journey and connecting with you and other people and holding each other accountable. That's huge. That's where the community really comes into play. You and I hold each other accountable. We have these conversations. We want to just make that safe space for others to join in.
Yeah. And I've made a post about accountability. Accountability sets you free. When
Yes.
you find a way to blame everything else that's out of your control, you relinquish your control. When you take accountability and say, it's on me, you
Mm-hmm.
now have the ability to change it. But that's difficult. That comes a little bit later in your personal journey as you're doing these things and kind of doing the work. So having that accountability buddy or the environment or the group where people can kind of help hold you accountable makes a big difference. And I have some guys now that I run around with, they'll make these one little quick statement, and it makes you say, "Man, I'm not doing enough. I need to hold myself more accountable."
Yeah.
And it's not in a attacking way. And I think that's extremely important, because if you feel attacked, you kind of most people will kind of draw back in. But having people around you that can say, "Hey, you're kind of falling back into that space. You kind of, maybe have you missed this?" Having that shared accountability helps kind of get over those initial hurdles and get to that next tier. So I look at you, Melanie, as somebody that's helping hold me accountable. And, I do some of the same, like, "Hey, let's
Same.
get on here. Let's start recording." And, sometimes you got to tell me, like, "Hey, let's do it this way. Let's try this." And I think it's extremely important. It's how we're going to get things done. But we want to make sure we help provide that to more people. And I think there's pieces here that we can actually help create better cultures and better work environments in general, or
Absolutely.
just better relationships. Take corporate America out of it, just better relationships in the world. If you learn how to respect people, find common ground, and have done the work within yourself to present a better version, you can now create or reduce some of the friction that you have. So I'm hoping that's another piece as we dig into this journey that we can help people with, and start to add some value back out to the larger group.
Totally agree. I hope that some of what we're talking about is resonating with you guys. I've had conversations outside of Justin, and I receive overwhelmingly amazing feedback. Like, I feel exactly the same way. I wish people would talk about this more. I wish I had a platform to share and have a safe space. And so I hope that you guys see what we're trying to do here and want to become a part of this community. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be sharing ways that you can connect with us on Discord and on other platforms. We'd love to hear your thoughts on topics that you'd like to hear about. We definitely have, different things that we want to dive into. We've talked about doing the work. What does that mean, doing the work? How do you find purpose? It's different for each person, but we can share our experiences, and hopefully that'll help you guys kind of get on your path to self-discovery and finding purpose. Wellness is huge. This all kind of comes together. We're talking about the holistic person, not just the person at work, not just the home life, we're talking about you holistically and just kind of being a better you all the way around. So we're hoping that that resonates with you guys and you'll want to come on this journey of transformation, because we're still on the path. We absolutely do not have it figured out. We're figuring it out as we go, and we want you guys to kind of join in, and we want to learn from you as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's important that your point that you just made, that we're going to continue to grow. And I think that's a critical part of finding the best version of you, is you never have it all figured out, and be
Yeah.
comfortable with that. Be comfortable with change. We may be a year and a half ahead of some people that are just trying to figure out they need to do this, and we want to add that value. But we can provide, and what we want to provide is a lot of the different just information of kind of what we've seen, what we've done. My whole last year and a half has been that self discovery. It has been the self work. It has been finding people that benefit my life in totality. And now is kind of, I always think of the learn one, do one, teach one. We're starting to move into the teach one phase while we're continuing to do and learn. So we've spent a lot of time doing the groundwork and kind of getting out of the scenarios we were in that were holding us down and creating our challenges. Now moving up into, I've gained comfort. I've found joy in my life again. I've found, that passion again. So we want to start to help others with that as we continue to move into, and we may talk about some of those things like the entrepreneurship, kind of building wealth, and may have some guests here and there that we're bringing in that are adding some different
Absolutely.
values. We have a few that we've talked to that we're interested in bringing in, but really starting to bring that out to the larger group. And as Melanie mentioned, this community is going to be important. So bring your feedback, bring your thoughts, bring your questions. It's not a therapy session. I'll be honest. We are not trained therapists. That's not what we're
No.
here for. But it is therapeutic in a way, because being able to have like-minded people to talk to helps substantially. So I'm sure we'll have some pieces in here where we'll talk about succeeding in corporate America. Maybe you're just getting in started, the value of building your skill set. But that skill set is more than just that work. You have to understand the personal skill set and those things to really make yourself successful. So hopefully you can leverage. I hate to talk about our combined experience because it's a big number, but over 50 years in corporate America that we can bring. I'll take all that. We'll blame the Grays. We'll
That's
say it's
him.
mostly me. But bringing that experience in, but honestly, I think more importantly is that self discovery work, that mentality, finding your purpose, learning to align to your authentic self, and the power that brings. To me, that trumps all the rest of it. But there's value in all those pieces. So we'll bring our combined experiences and hopefully help the group in totality. And like Melanie said, we'll want to learn from you as well. So lot to come. I'm excited, Melanie. I'm excited that we
Super
reconnected,
excited.
and hopefully we'll bring a lot too. We have more episodes lined up. I think we have 4 or 5 now, but we have ideas for, I don't know, 30, 40, quite a bit coming up.
Yeah.
So anything from you kind of button up this intro?
Yeah, so I think you've said it. We want to create this space. We want to create this community. We want to share our experiences. We want to hear from you guys. We're going to dive into some of the tools that we've hit on a little bit high level. So definitely more to come. We hope that you'll join us on this journey, and we look forward to sharing more in our future episodes.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. See you all soon.
Bye, guys.